Oh my gosh. Hey everybody, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you're watching from. Say hi. How was your day off? Did you miss me yesterday? I did nothing yesterday, and it was fantastic. All right. If you are here, say hi in the chat. Tell me where you're watching from. We've got 20 or so on YouTube so far. Instagram is here. Hey guys. Okay, we'll do a minute or so. New York, Jersey, Florida. All my other East Coasters, did you finally get a break today also from the heat? It was amazing. I stepped outside this morning and I was like, oh, I could put on a sweatshirt. This is fantastic. It was like oppressively hot and humid this week. Like I already cannot stand heat and humidity. Summer is my least favorite time of the year, but this week has been just oppressive. And we were supposed to get all this rain yesterday that was going to cool it down, and it didn't rain. It just got like humid and moist in the air, and it was even worse. But something must have happened overnight because it was like 62 this morning. It was absolutely delightful. Yes. All righty. All right, we got some West Coasters too. Thanks for popping on. I know it's relatively early out there, but if you know me at all, you know I don't do things early in the morning. I do not schedule mornings. I do not set alarm clocks. That is how I have healed my educational trauma. I do not wake up to an alarm clock for anything. Even most, like when I travel, I will pay extra for the later flight because I really, really don't want to set an alarm clock. Okay. On Instagram, we got you here from California. Hello, guys. Okay. So here's how today is going to go. So this is a combo day. Today is it's like an ending and a beginning. Today is the last day of our week that we've spent together for the Aligned Homeschool Routines workshop, which has been so fun and so amazing. And I've just had so much fun this week, and I'm so glad I decided to do this live because the energy has been amazing. The engagement has been fantastic. So that's fantastic. So today is the Q&A day for that. We're wrapping up any questions that you had there. We've got them inside our Q&A form. So we've got that. We've got our final giveaway from that, which we will do first here as soon as I go over like what we're doing. And then it is simultaneously the first day of our Bridge Academy school year weekly Q&A. So if you are watching from the workshop that you are part of this week, this will be our last live experience together. The pop-up group that we had will stay open until Sunday. The replays will stay open for free until Sunday night. So you have all day Sunday, like Monday, morning, we will cancel everything. So that group will be archived and the replays will go away. After that, we will be like editing and doing some making it look a little bit nicer, not just the live cuts. And that will be placed inside the Bridge Academy portal. So if you are a Bridge Academy family, or if you decide to enroll and join us in Bridge Academy this year, you will have access to the prettily put together workshops and videos and replays inside there. Otherwise, if you want to have the workshops later or you want to share those with others, we will be packaging that up to have available to sell to the public as soon as we can. The priority is getting it clipped and edited for our Bridge Academy family. And then this will be our regular schedule for those in Bridge. So if you really enjoyed the engagement, the being able to submit your questions, if you have fun today listening to all of the other questions, then and afterwards, by the way, we will email you if you submitted a question. We'll email you and let you know where in the video your question was answered. We'll timestamp it so that you don't have to watch an hour or plus long video to get your question answered. So if you have enjoyed all of that as well, the best way to continue that community, that engagement, that support with me is going to be through Bridge Academy, because every Friday at noon Eastern time, just like this, we'll have these Q&As where I take the questions that you submitted and we answer them, and we go from there. Now, these will always be public. We will stream them just like this. So on Instagram, every Friday, I'll be here, but I'm only going to be answering the questions that come in through the form. So you do have to be a part of Bridge to share a question. Okay. So I think I got all those things checked off. So let's do the giveaway first. Let's get that out of the way, right? Okay. So we had exactly 99 entries for the iPad gift set giveaway. So we are going to, we'll refresh this because this was from yesterday's. All right, we had 99. Oh, better make sure you guys can see it. Can you see it? Black screen. How about now? Can you see it now? It's doing the thing again. Yes, we can see it now. Okay, I think I just have to like refresh and pop back over. Okay, so we will generate 94. Ooh, nice. Okay, nice big number. So by the way, I'll show you in a second. I did randomize the entries so that it didn't matter when you submitted it. They were mixed up order because I know it's never going to pick like 1 or 99. So I randomized it so everyone has an equal chance. So let me share this tab instead. Can you see this tab? Just making sure all of the entries. We are 94. Where's 94? Hillary Goodwin. Congratulations. That's a name I'm familiar with. That's always really exciting. All right. Hillary is the winner. Put that in the chat. I don't think I can tag. Nope. Okay. So Hillary is the winner of the iPad set, which is awesome because I know Hillary's been engaging all week and is a Bridge family. So that's really exciting. Awesome. Okay. Got that out of the way. Okay. So if you just have clicked this link and you have no idea who I am and what we're doing and what is going on. My name is Leah McDermott. I am the founder of Bridge Academy. I am the face and the persona behind Your Natural Learner, which is likely where you've seen me online. And all this week, we've been running a live workshop series called the Aligned Homeschool Routines Workshop, which has been a fantastic experience. We talked about the importance of deschooling some of our mindset. We talked about identifying the needs of each person in your home, identifying the needs of your family. We talked about the rhythm and flow and finding that unique pattern that your family already has without trying to add more things to it, just identifying what's already going on. And then we talked about how learning fits into that, or not really how it fits in, but how it emerges very naturally from that. So the 3-day workshop series videos are up for replay. If you're watching this on YouTube, just click over to my channel and you'll see them right there. That's where the replays are. They have been emailed out. They have been shared in places. Those will be up for free for you to watch and catch up on until Sunday night, until Sunday at midnight. So if you need something to do this weekend and you haven't watched those yet, I definitely recommend you do that. There's an amazing workbook that goes along with it, which you should be able to click and download in if you got on the email list at all. And throughout the week, we've had people sharing any questions that came up for them about this content and put them into a form. And so again, this is a combination of answering those questions and also sharing any questions that our new Bridge Academy family members have, as well as any questions that were submitted by those from the workshop who had questions about joining Bridge Academy. So we're going to kind of split this into two. The first half of this video, I'm going to answer the questions that were content specific. So anything about the workshop or like Bridge questions that were questions submitted from Bridge families about other things, like just about, learning, parenting, whatever in general. And then once I've answered all of those, I'll shift over into answering any questions that you have about Bridge Academy specifically, about joining it, etc. So And that way we can just really easily like send out the timestamps and clip the videos. Depending on, there was quite a lot of questions this week. I think we had almost 40 questions. So it might take me some time to get through. If you submitted one and you don't want to wait around listening to me live, we will email you and tell you where that question is. But of course, the more engagement we have here, the better. I will be able to, it's just going to be me today, no slides. So I will be able to see the chat. I'll do the best I can to answer there, but we're going to prioritize the questions that came in through the chat. Okay, so give me just a second to click back over there. 35 questions this week, so quite a lot, but we'll get through them. Okay, so we'll start. We're going to have to go from the bottom up. Okay. So this question, and I don't know if I said this already, but spoiler alert, I have not seen any of these questions before. So a lot of them were coming in even just this morning. Normally we will have a cutoff. So for those of you in Bridge Academy or that are going to be joining, the form will always be open. The current weekly form will close the Thursday night before. That way I have, Thursday night, Friday morning to read through and prepare just in case there's questions I need to get some clarity on. If there's ever one that I really feel I can't answer, I'll pause, I'll bump it a week or I'll reach out to that person individually. But just because we left it open on purpose through this morning, I might not have seen them all, or I haven't seen them all. Okay, so this first question is, what are other teen PDAs using for math? PDA is pathological demand avoidance. It's a neurodiversity. A lot of family members in our community have students with PDA, so that's more common. And honestly, for the very first question that's coming in, I don't really have a great answer to. I think that, but it is a good example of questions that are community sourced first. My instinct and experience tells me to not worry about a curriculum specific for that, especially if you're dealing with PDA, because you're just like anything else, you're going to run into that. You're going to hit that resistance and avoidance. People are sharing in the chat, Khan Academy. Exactly. I would suggest, if you need the structure, I would suggest something that is self-paced. So an online autonomous learning experience, or asynchronous is the word I was trying to come up with, something that is not timed and scheduled, but something that they can come to when they're prepared. Absolutely something that they have interest in or can see the value in. So simply you saying you need to do this, I need you to do this, even the you will need this in the future type of language is still going to often meet that resistance and avoidance. So collaboration is going to be really key there. Having an understanding of what is it that you need, what is it that you desire, what can we do? So I would highly recommend, unless there is an innate interest and passion for math where they might already be seeking out something higher level at that age, my recommendation would be hands-on, real world learning. So letting them budget with you in a way that doesn't feel like school, which is the ideal anyway, right? But finding letting them budget with you, make sure they have their own bank account, setting something up with your bank that they have access to their own money, that they can start learning how to budget, planning travel, planning meals, anything that's very real world and concrete, because obviously the best case scenario is that you're also in some way teaching them how to manage their money as an adult. And then anything that is similar to that, if they need that structure that's not coming from you, if it needs to be something online, finding financial literacy, consumer math, that type of thing. That would be my recommendation. But this is a perfect example of a question to throw into our Bridge Academy community and start there, because someone has probably already been where you are in our community, because it's so big, it's so vast, it's so, heterogeneous or homogeneous. It's all mixed up, heterogeneous. I need more coffee this morning. There's so many families, it's so diverse. We definitely want to utilize that community resource. Okay, second question. Ooh, it's not showing. Why is it not? Okay. We are a new Bridge Academy family and are trying to sort out how to adapt our schedules around having our 11-year-old now being homeschooled. Current setup is a full-time work from home dad in tech with lots of meetings, so primarily working a regular schedule at that point. A 9-year-old in full-time in-person school outside the home, and a mom who works 4 days per week, half days also outside the home. Have you seen families be able to maintain two working parents while having a child be homeschooled? Oops, I lost my spot. Or is it most common and necessary for one parent to pause on their career in order to attend to the homeschool child's needs? I ask because I love my career and it fulfills several of my own needs, but I'm not sure how we juggle this, plus our daughter's learning and social connection needs now that she no longer attends in-person school. Any insights appreciated? So this is a really great, thorough question, gives me lots to work on. So first, yes, absolutely. I have seen many families be able to do this, because if we think about, and I don't like simplifying it like this, but if you think about school as being something that is primarily childcare, which we could argue all day about whether that is true or not, what other things school does for people, but at the end of the day, that is like, that's the primary purpose, right? It's a place to put children when their parents are working. And that is the biggest struggle then for parents who want to homeschool and don't want to or cannot leave their jobs, is the childcare. So you're at a wonderful situation right now where an 11-year-old doesn't need to be watched all day, right? Someone is home with her. So dad is working. Even if he's working, he's there. So if there is an emergency, if something happens, if there is a connection point needed, there is another person there. They're not fully alone. But I have absolutely seen this work. So the key is that, and in the context of the routines workshop that we did, it's going to be very unique for your family, right? You are going to have to plug in those scheduled pieces. So the way you're going to do that is when you're putting the priority needs, like the best part to do that is going to be when you're looking at that priority needs quadrant. We're gonna place scheduled things on that too, right? So an important and urgent thing is going to be whatever scheduled work meetings dad will have, and whatever scheduled hours mom is out of the home, and whatever scheduled times the younger sibling needs to be dropped off, picked up. And that doesn't mean that your daughter, I think you said daughter, anyway, the 11-year-old is going to just be like alone in the mix, right? Her needs still have to be placed in that priority schedule at some point. So there's definitely, if this is brand new, there's definitely going to be some deschooling time. So I wouldn't immediately try, number one, I wouldn't immediately try to like schedule in school times. That's not what we want to do. She's going to need some time to rediscover what it feels like to not be in school, to have that flexibility, to be independent, to be on her own. There might be some chaotic moments. Be ready to embrace those. So I would be finding using those scheduled times as consider those touch points and figure out how her touch points fit in with that as well. So it's going to be a lot of like trial and error. I would say probably it's going to look a lot like the times when an adult is available, really pouring into the child in that moment. And if that happens to be an out of sync moment where maybe, okay, there's a gap between when your husband has meetings between like 10 and 11 a.m., let's say, but that's a time when she's really independent and doesn't want someone bothering her in her space, then still maybe between those times, he is doing something to plan ahead for her, putting some snacks together that are easy for her to grab, or setting up some kind of activity for her, for example, so that it's available. It's still him putting that energy into preparation for her. It's still meeting those needs and becoming part of that rhythm, honoring what her flow is, but not trying to force her into a schedule that works for everyone else in the home because that's just when it happens to be, right? So it's still the same thing. We're still finding those touch points. We're still honoring all of those needs. We're just making sure that everyone's schedule is fit in. And then an 11-year-old is also old enough to have honest conversations. We're so glad you're home. We really, we are ready to make this work for you. There are going to be times when, dad's not accessible, mom's going to be at work, and we're just figuring this out as we go, and just really making sure that everyone else's scheduled needs do not supersede her needs just because they're not scheduled. That's going to be the biggest thing. Okay. All right. Next question. Please share a little more on how to incorporate essential math skills for a 6-year-old and an 8-year-old into everyday life without sitting down to do it. So you will probably hear me answer many questions about this in the same way, which is going to be anytime you have a skill that you feel your child needs to know. So be really specific here. Like when you say essential math, what does that mean to you? And be honest, because here we've got this uniqueness of each individual family. When you say essential math, and be like, sit down with a journal and write it out. What does essential math mean to you? To me, that means being able to budget, understand my finances, cook in the kitchen, know how to use a calculator, understand like simple calculations, not just to be able to memorize it in my head, but to know how to ask the question. If I have, a room this big, how much carpet do I need? Even if I and end up going to a robot and asking that question, or a calculator and asking that question, the essential piece is knowing what I'm asking, right? That's the question that matters, or that's the piece that matters. So understanding what that actually means to you, not just what things from a curriculum do they need to know, or what, certain level do they need to be at, but honestly, what does essential math mean? And once you've identified that, then you tell yourself, okay, where do I use that skill in my real life? Like as an adult, where am I doing that skill? So if I say I need them to be able to like adapt a recipe, that's a real life skill, an essential math skill, then that's where you teach it. You invite them into the real life components of teaching that skill. And if you say to yourself, well, this must be an essential math skill, and then you can't think of any example in your real life where you use that skill, then you need to reevaluate. Is it really essential if I don't ever use it, or I can't think of someone else in my life that does ever use that skill? Maybe that's one that we don't have to focus on right now, or we can push it to the back burner. At 6 and 8, there's so many opportunities for real world math learning that there's no need to sit them down with a workbook and regurgitate facts and memorize things. There's so much in real life. So, but that's the key, identifying what you mean by an essential skill. And by the way, this isn't just for math, this is for everything. Identify what the essential skill is. Ask yourself where you're already doing that as an adult, and then bring them into it. Make a conscious effort to model, to explain, to invite, and to give them space to practice. That's how we teach things in real life. Think about it like an internship, like a mentorship of a like high level context of something. That's what we're doing with unschooling, with real world learning. Now, if you are inside Bridge Academy, or if you want to purchase it separately, you do get access to the Your Natural Learner curriculum. And in that curriculum, you will see for those ages, the grade levels. So 6 would be like first grade-ish, and 8 would be like, third grade-ish. So in those curriculums, you will see how I have the math activities in those are, the way the curriculum was designed was holistically from the understanding of the child's whole development, first of all, what's really going on at that age. And then the approach is all child-led. So there's not worksheets, there's not workbooks, there's not quizzes, there's not tests, there's not just regurgitating facts, doing 50 of the same problem on the page. There's none of that. Then it's aligned to the standards still. So if there is some concern, or you still just haven't broken away from that structure yet of, well, I want my 8-year-old to know everything that other 8-year-olds are learning in school, there's nothing wrong with having that belief still. If that's where you are, then that third grade curriculum from my curriculum will teach you that, but it's going to be open-ended activities, child-led activities, games, hands-on type stuff, ways that those concepts can be introduced and explored and played with in that child-led way that isn't okay, sit down, I have to teach you this thing, now show me that you've learned it. It's let's explore this, let's look at this, let's talk about this, and then you can see how it manifests in real life. Oh, you've learned this skill when we played that game, remember? Now we know how to do it when we're at the grocery store. Now you understand, the supply and demand concept when we are talking about the price of things changing. That's the real, purpose behind that. So I'm not sure if this person is enrolled with us or not, but if you are, I would recommend, if you're still needing some of that structure, check out the curriculum. And you can totally use just the math lessons if that's what you need. Like if you feel great unschooling everything else and you just still need that support of math, then use those activities. Just do that. It's fully, the curriculum is so flexible that you can hop in and grab one activity out and nothing is going to be missed because you didn't do the other things. It's not a like day one, day two, rigid schedule. Obviously, I'm pretty against that. So you can absolutely just hop in and take what you need. And the chat here is I realized a few weeks ago my son wasn't taught odd and even numbers, so I used his Hot Wheels cars and put them in rows of 3 through 10, had him pick the odd one out in each row, and it worked because it was contextual, made sense to him. I've told this story before, but I'll tell it again because it's so relevant here to see the difference between school learning of a concept and real life learning of a concept. And Cassie mentions there's a workshop in the parent portal on this. I think you might be right. I can't remember which one, but I think you're right. And maybe it's when I'm telling this story. But my oldest, a couple of years ago, when we first moved to a new town, he was hanging out with a lot of, meeting some new kids, and all of them went to public school. And he came home one day really upset with me. And he said, everyone, I don't like being homeschooled. I need to go to school because I'm not smart, is what he said. And I was like, well, what are you talking about? Like, what concept are you missing? And he was like, I don't know anything about math. And I said, well, sure you do. Like, what are you talking about? And he said, it was fractions. Everybody was talking about fractions. They had fraction homework. And he's like, I don't know what that is. I'm a failure. Like, he was really upset, rightfully so, because he felt, like he was missing something. I don't have any idea what fractions is. And everybody knows what fractions are. I was like, of course you do. You use fractions all the time. And he's like, what are you talking about? And so I brought him over, and I was working at the time, and I showed him on my notebook, and I just wrote down a couple of fractions, visually. I was like, like 1/4, that means 1 out of 4. And he looks at it and takes a big deep breath, and he goes, that's what fractions are? And I was like, yeah, what'd you think it was? He's like, I do that every time I'm cooking. And at the store, that's how I calculate discounts. I was like, yeah, you do it in real life. He had just never had to multiply and add fractions on a piece of paper because someone else told him to. And yet, when he and his friends would go to the store or go somewhere, they would ask him to do calculations on if something was 25% off, what did that mean? Because he understood the same math, the actual concept. He had just never had to do drills on the fractions. So that's a great example of teaching something fully out of context just because it's in the curriculum, and then not having the skills to apply it in real life versus being able to do that skill in real life. Now, what that taught me was that I needed to be better about making sure he understood the name of that concept. So now when he somewhat recently, we had a discussion about the prices of things. So like supply and demand. And I made sure I remembered from there, it was a learning moment for me. This is what's taught to you in economics. This is called, the law of supply and demand. That way there is that trigger for him where if he sees it somewhere else, if someone else is talking about it, he knows that he already understands it. So, but yeah, that's the key, is really finding that in real life opportunity to teach something. All right, moving right along. I might have just accidentally answered this question. So the question is, hi, new to Bridge Academy, but beginning our 5th year as self-directed learners. My question is one of how to support the child and children navigate the differences they'll innately possess not being brought up in the school system. My daughter has 2 friends in school who fairly consistently test her to see if she knows what they know. I literally just answered this. So when we are editing this video, we need to give the timestamp back a little bit to answer this question. When she fails by their standards, begin to make her feel dumb. We've navigated this for over a year now. And despite my best efforts of trying to help her see that this isn't actually about her, but about them, and that hurting people set out to hurt people. So maybe they're hurting. She's only 10. These things penetrate. In the beginning, when it first started, I made it about me, and my hypervigilance kicked in as I felt the need to ramp up how we do things. Now I'm just trying to support her and her decision with how to best handle it. But my fear is that her inner voice is believing she's dumb and how she thinks and talks to herself. Any advice? So this is very perfectly similar to what I just said. So again, when we timestamp this, go back and give this person the same response. I think it is very I'm very proud to see that you have already identified that you made this about you first, that you reacted to this out of a fear of failure, a fear of her emotions reflecting on your ability to teach her. And then what you need to identify there is, like, first of all, that's fantastic that you did that and that you've been able to step back and say, this isn't about my daughter, but it also isn't even about me. Like, this is definitely not about me, and I don't need to react and change things. But maybe identifying a little bit that when you did at first make that about you and attack it in a way of like, oh, well, now we have to do more things. What that accidentally did, and I'm not faulting you because that's a very common reaction, but what that may have accidentally did is solidify to her that her feelings were valid. Not just all feelings are valid, but that her feelings about being dumb were true. Let's put it that way, that the outcome of that was true. Because when she felt that way, your reaction was, ooh, yikes. Yeah, you really should know all of your times tables by now. My bad. Let's memorize those. And then that reaction makes that feel even more true. Wow, now even my mom thinks I'm dumb. Like, and she did this to me, right? And it's just all these ick feelings. So it's really good that you recognize that, be aware that that could have taken place for her. And now it's just having these conversations with her of, and also an understanding that age, so this is the beginning of this, right? That age is hard. There is going to be comparison. Her friends don't know anything different, and she's the other one in this scenario. So it's an easy target, and I'm very familiar with this. This happens to my oldest frequently, not so much anymore, but it did, where they would just pick the thing that was the thing they could make fun of him for, even if it was just like a joke. That was the thing. Oh, you don't know your times tables, you don't know whatever. And from an adult perspective, it's easy to say, who cares? Then memorize them. Like, it doesn't matter. That's the thing that they learned in third grade that they're holding on to, because, right, like you said, that's something that they pride themselves on knowing, because that was the thing that mattered for like 3 years of math class, is memorizing multiplications tables. And if that's something that they feel they have over this person who probably they're pretty jealous of that person's life, they're going to use that as a way to make them feel less than. But saying those things as an adult, we see that, but we also hopefully remember what it's like to be the kid that is othered or treated differently or made fun of, and an adult telling you, oh, it's about them, not about you, doesn't help. So what helps in those moments is honoring the emotion. I see you, I hear you, I feel you, I understand you. I'm sorry that that's happening. I know that feels terrible. That must feel terrible for you to be treated differently because you do something differently in your life. And a lot of times just hearing that is enough. Nothing else needs to change. Just hearing that is enough. But especially with my child, who is very perfectionist and needs to know all of the things, the way I handled that was, after acknowledging and honoring the emotion, was nothing that they are learning at school is inaccessible to you. By choosing to unschool you or homeschool you, I am not gatekeeping information. I'm not hiding things from you. That's not my intention. The intention is that you are free to learn whatever you want, however you want, and whenever you want. And that is a luxury that your friends in public school don't have. They are told what to learn, when to learn it, how to learn it, and to learn it a certain way and prove they know it a certain way. So really, if you have decided that learning those same things is important to you, then we will do that. If it bothers you to be made fun of for not knowing something, and you want to know those things, let's do it. However it works best for you. We can we can use the exact same books that they're using if that matters to you, because then it's chosen. You're not adopting school at home at that point. If the child chooses that or desires that, you're just helping them. That is a child-led philosophy. That is unschooling. So then it's their choice, and they can choose then how those feelings or how those interactions make them feel. They can choose what they want to do about it. And that's really, really powerful. So that's my recommendation, is just being honest about why you choose to do things the way you do, and giving them that freedom, and just letting them know this is not secret information. The things they're quizzing you on, you could probably memorize in 5 minutes, right? Like, or a little longer. But that's what I've seen happen then, is kids where it was forced upon them in school, it took them months, years to learn because they didn't care, or they weren't developmentally ready, or they needed more time and other people in the class were moving faster, or vice versa. They would have learned it really fast, but the rest of the class was slowing them down. Like whatever their out of their control circumstances were, I've seen kids learn in days. And that was a big realization for my oldest, was this memorizing multiplication tables is drilled for like 2 years in public schools. You could sit down and memorize those in a week. If you can memorize like the layout of a video game, and you can memorize all the words to a song, you have the ability to memorize things. And that's all multiplication is. There's no special skill. There's no like secret math ability that other people have that you don't. That is literally just memorizing something. And you can sit down and do that if you put your mind to it in days. And he realized that he could, and he did. And now it's not a thing anymore, right? So that it's acknowledging the emotion and giving the power back to the child, and just letting them know, there is no information on this earth that you do not have access to. But we'll find out whatever you want. So hopefully that's helpful. Okay. Okay, this is a funny question, actually. So how do we plan out our school year? And I don't mean a rigid or strict schedule, but something to ensure we aren't floundering around in the dark asking for a kindergarten mom. So for this mom, there's definitely still, and I think you know it, there's definitely some like things you still have to let go of a little bit. If you are, I think I recognize the name, and you are in Bridge Academy. So I would say pull out that kindergarten curriculum, read the schedules, the suggested schedules in the beginning. The introduction of all the curriculums gives you like a brief suggested structure if you really, really still need it. Because look, we're all on this path individually and uniquely, right? There is still, even if you watched all 3 days of this workshop and you were like, yes, this is great, I love this, I'm doing this. If you haven't worked through those traumas and those like schooled mindset and schooled beliefs about productivity and learning and value of time, if you haven't worked through that, and that's not going to go away because you listened to me talk for 3 hours, like it's just not. I wish I could make it, but it's not going to happen. So you need the gentle structure to guide you while you're letting everything else go. So what I would recommend to you is do the stuff in this workshop first. Like give yourself the gift of saying, nothing bad will happen if I only focus on creating a rhythm first. Because otherwise, just like we talked about in day 3, if you start with the learning, which most people coming out of public school, that's what they do. They start with the learning first. Well, they have to know these things. So how do I cram all of that into a day? And that is the opposite. We want to flip that upside down, right? You can figure out what all those things are. But if your day is chaotic, if you are trying to work against the flow of your child's natural rhythm and interests, against their natural attention span, like a good rule of thumb for attention span is age plus 5 minutes. So if you're a new kindergarten mom, at most you have a 6-year-old plus 5 minutes, That's 11 minutes. That's the reality. The attention span of a 6-year-old, an average 6-year-old, is only going to be about 11 minutes, unless it's something they're super interested in. Then they could do it forever. That's the asterisk. That's the caveat. So if you're trying to force all of these things into like 11-minute pockets of the day, it's just stress to the max. Like you're lesson planning to no end, and that doesn't feel good to anyone. So give yourself the gift of saying, it's okay. It's August 1st. In most states, he wouldn't be starting school yet anyway. So let the lesson planning go. Let the fear of will he learn it all go, because you know what? The reality is you could do nothing but let him play all year and he'd still learn everything he really needs. So use that curriculum as a gentle structure. Give yourself the space to just do this workshop, find his rhythms, so that during those times of the day, if you need to plan the learning, plan it during the touch points. When he's coming to you anyway, desiring that connection, that's a great time to have something prepared. Maybe that's let's bake muffins together. Maybe that's let's go on a nature walk. Maybe that's a more structured activity that you already had prepared to pull out at that time. If you have my morning invitations guide, the Morning Magic, or the Wonder Year, it's a new product, the Wonder Year, that's great to have because those things can be put together in just a couple of minutes. Like those are ways to invite the learning to happen along that natural rhythm and flow of the day, especially at kindergarten. Just because he turned a certain age doesn't mean that everything about his day and the way you interact with him has to change. So I know that still feels like blah, 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 blah. What do I do during the day? But just trust me, give yourself the gift. This is a you problem. This is not a child problem. So give yourself the gift of letting it all go, leave him to his own devices, and pay attention to the things in this workshop, work through that workbook, find those moments, and then introduce those, more gently structured things throughout the day. Okay. Next question. I'm still wrapping my mind around how to embrace what my kids are curious about without turning it into a school moment. For example, my 8-year-old is interested in one day running Airbnbs. Forward thinker, this kid. And how do I help him enjoy learning and curiosity without veering into my own tendencies to prove that this is learning? I found myself wanting to help him make a list or write a timeline or a fake budget, LOL at me. In the end, I told him his ideas are super cool. How about if we keep a list together? And that's all we did. As we talked about floor plans and features, I took dictation for all of his ideas. Bottom line, what are some questions or phrases I can keep in front of me so that I remember to celebrate learning, not try to force proving it? So this is almost like a journal entry that I just read. So this makes me really happy because you are obviously processing all of this as you're asking a question. You're basically answering your own questions. You see that he has an interest. You see that he's seeing things around him. He's obviously learning about this from, information or other people. So you are embracing that for him, but realizing that even your ability to embrace his interests outside of her traditional, academic checklist still turns into this desire to document and prove and force. So then what you've obviously said is here, you noticed that it's just easier to say, that's a really great idea. Let's just, keep this together and talk about it and keep it open. So I think you did exactly the right things. You showed him that there are ways to, even if you're only 8 years old, that's something you want to do in the future. There's still things you can learn now that lead you to that point. However, an honest approach or realistic approach that you're 8 years old, 10 years from now, will Airbnb even still be a thing? There's lots of controversy around it. Like that, I wanted to be a lot of things when I was 8 that I'm certainly not now, right? And the odds are that will change, but it's the praising of the curiosity. It is the openness to have lots of discussions about those things, what leads up to those things. Even that alone, running the Airbnbs, what is it that makes that? What is it about that specific venture that excites your child? Is it running their own business, being their own boss? Is it the real estate industry? Is it architecture and designing homes? Is it interior design? Is it hospitality? What is it that makes that so unique? And if we jump in right away without taking the time to figure out those, eccentricities or whatever, those little intricacies of what it is that's making him excited about that, then we're going to accidentally often place things upon him that might not have been true. We might say, oh, yeah, you want to do that because of this. And it was totally different, right? Like we might think, oh, they're really interested in that because they want to be an entrepreneur, when really what was exciting about it was like having guests come in all the time from all different places and meeting new people and getting to like host people. If we are not taking the time to let that kind of flourish on its own or give them lots of opportunity to talk about it, and we're too quick to put our own things on top of that, we kind of squash the curiosity. And you're exactly right. We're doing like the same thing that would be happening in school, only because it's not academic, it feels better. So we have to be careful that we're still honoring that curiosity and celebrating that learning. So what are questions I can keep in front of me so I remember to celebrate learning? That's it right there. Remember to celebrate learning. Make that a thing and put it on your phone, hang it on the fridge, celebrate learning, ask questions. Like that's enough for you, right? You've identified already the pattern that you tend to have. That's the biggest part of deschooling, is identifying what we're doing without even like pausing to think about it. How are we reacting to our children instead of like absorbing the information, observing it? It's always great to just say, that's a great idea, because then they're free to continue talking if they want, or that might be all they wanted to share, or that's a great idea. What is it about that that excites you? And leaving it open. There doesn't have to be something bigger. Everything doesn't have to go somewhere. So I think a great phrase is celebrate learning. You'll remember now, right? Especially if you listen to this, you'll remember what that means. Next question. My twin girls are 7 and their reading and writing is really taking off, because age 7 is the average age of development for literacy. So that makes me really happy to hear. They are not behind. They are right on time. Back to the question. They are loving to write and know how to sound out to write, but they are always wanting it to be correct. So they constantly ask me how to spell things. I normally spell it out for them the correct way, but should I be allowing them to sound it out and write it how they think it should be, even if it's wrong? This is a fantastic question. Just spell it. That is the answer to your question. If they ask you how to spell a word, spell the word. No ifs, no ands, no buts, period. Always just spell the word. I'm 40 years old. If I ask my husband, how do you spell this word? He's not going to go, did you look it up? Sound it out. What does it start with? You should know that. He just helps me, right? We help each other. Writing, there is a writing workshop that is inside Bridge Academy in the portal that you need to watch. I'm actually probably going to be redoing that soon, maybe, but it's fantastic as it is. I don't know why I would redo it. Maybe I'll just film a live version like this for the engagement, but just spell it. Because when a child is in the writing stages of development, anything that interrupts their flow stops the flow, right? We talked about this in day 3, I think, of this workshop, where we talked about roadblocks, like accessibility to things throws a roadblock in there. So if you're thinking about their writing as like a road that they're driving on, and they're writing, Mom, how do I spell sauce? And how do you think you spell sauce? Sound it out. Or even coming from a good place of like, give it a try. It's okay if it's not right. No one's going to see it but you. Even that, like if they felt safe enough to ask you, give them the answer so they can keep going. Because any halt that you put in that process, you're like throwing a brick in their road of productivity and flow. Don't put up the roadblocks. Just spell the word. You're not harming them. You're not delaying them, especially for a child where the perfection of their writing matters, which is a lot of people. They want it to be right. Just give them the answer. Some kids, don't need to, they might just go, and they're not bothered by it. And in the same vein, by the way, don't correct them either unless they ask you. Don't go back and red pen your kids' work. Let them go. Writing and literacy happens on a continuum. Writing is a very specific continuum of stages that children go through as they are learning. Let it go. Someone in the chat said, I just laughed out loud. I'd die if I was asked if I looked it up first. Yeah, exactly, right? We would never do that to another adult. So just let them, just help them. Definitely just help them. You're doing everything right. Stick with your gut. Next question. Okay, it's kind of a long one. I have 2 daughters that are neurodiverse and have very different learning styles. They're 2 years apart. The older is able to express herself and what she's learning in words and likes to work alone most of the time. The younger is unable or unwilling to speak and give me any feedback. She's easily frustrated and wants to be guided through things. I feel I have to split them up most times and work with them separately. When I try to have learning experiences all together, the younger one doesn't seem engaged and the older gets upset because she believes her sister should be able to respond like she does and that we as the parents are not being fair or don't push her enough. I've tried to have several talks with my older daughter about how her sister thinks differently. It doesn't help that they were in the public school system for years and my oldest has been heavily conditioned. Do you have suggestions? Am I doomed to always work with them separately? Not to mention one's an early bird and the other is a night owl. So no, you're not doomed. So this is really, I'm really glad you took the time to share all of this for me. So by the way, those of you who ask questions in the future, giving me lots of details like this is actually really helpful. So a couple of things here. Number one, you are very aware of each individual child's unique needs, and that is fantastic. You're not just like, oh, I'm really frustrated, nothing is working, shut down. You're very aware of each individual child's things, okay? Like one likes to be awake, one is on first thing in the morning, one is on later in the evening. That alone, even if nothing else that you told me was there and the only thing you said was one is on early in the morning, one is on late at night, that alone is enough to say, this is hard. Because I have 2 of those. I have one that is like wakes up, ready to go, energy of 1,000 suns, 100 million questions, right? First thing in the morning. And another that is like not really even awake in his brain until probably like 8 p.m. And that's when he's got like every question under the sun. So, or he wants to like build things and draw things and cut things and take things apart. Even just honoring that piece can be challenging if you are attempting to have a combined learning experience. When you add in other things like the unique ways that they communicate, past traumas from public school, diagnoses, neurodiversities, when you add the different ways that they approach the learning, when you add all of that in, you have 2 very unique people who just simply can't mesh in a learning activity. So that doesn't mean that you can't ever do things together. It just means that maybe at least currently, and if they're 2 years apart, depending on their ages, that also might just be at play. Siblings go through phases where you just doing things together just doesn't work. And that there's nothing wrong with your parenting or the kids. Like all of these are things that you're just identifying. And now we have to find the flow. So really what this shows me here is that the day 1 from this workshop, all of that work, the needs identification, that's pretty on par. Now it's how do we put this into play in a way that we can do things together. There is still some connection, but I'm honoring everyone's needs. And I think paying attention to some of the additional things that we talked about in day 2 will be very helpful. The environment piece is going to be huge here. I think probably especially for your younger child, because I'm gonna, well, and actually even your older, because she said she likes to be alone and work alone. So the environment's going to play a huge piece here. And that you might even find that when you put the effort into identifying where they are in the home, what spaces they're utilizing, how you can adapt, the way that you approach the environment being that additional teacher for your kids, when you implement a lot of that understanding and then extricate yourself or remove yourself from the equation, you might see things happening that is collaboration without you trying to control it. You are probably bringing a lot of your emotions. We talked about this a lot all through this workshop, is how our emotions affect the way our children react. If this is hard for you, if you're like having expectations of the older daughter to be more understanding of the younger, that's going to create some resentment. Even if you're coming at this all from the best possible place, there might still be some resentment from your older daughter, like, well, it's not my job to make the younger one engage more, right? That's an expectation you should have of that child, not me. That's not fair. All of this makes very clear sense, when we approach this from an individual perspective. So really what I think here is put a lot of effort into that day 2 stuff. Pay attention to how your environment is creating these experiences for your children. And don't think of anything as like a doom forever. Right now, remember, all of this is phases. All of this is seasons. We're coming back to this work over and over again because things change, people change. So right now, maybe that is true, that structured learning activities aren't happening together. And that doesn't have anything to do with being right or wrong. That's just the flow right now, is that they are not in sync in one way or another, or maybe in multiple ways, to be doing structured activities, specifically structured learning activities together. Maybe they can come together in other ways. Maybe there's like times during the day where there could be really close family connections where you're doing something completely different. But that's still, again, we look at learning not just as academic, but physical and emotional and social and mental. So maybe there's other ways. Maybe you guys can go on walks together at certain times. Maybe there's a time in the day everybody could take a walk together, or everyone could do something, have a cup of tea together. You could read to them. That still counts. That still matters. That's still touch points. That's still connection. That's still learning. But maybe you just need to let go of the fact that, okay, structured learning time at the same time in the same way, that's not going to fit right now. And that's perfectly okay. Someone asked in the chat, do you think asking them first? Oh, that's something different. Never mind. Okay. Next question. Any words of wisdom or pointers to help implement what we learned on the 3-day lessons as a mom who is also healing through trauma? Sometimes there are wind, and then there are paralyzed moments as well. Oh, I think you mean like it's going through. Okay. And I can't get over the hump. Oh, wins. Sometimes there are wins, and then there are paralyzed moments as well, and we just can't get over the hump. So the first thing, and this might sound very like woo-woo, but give yourself the grace and the space of understanding that you are going through traumas. Like, you are healing through, even if you haven't identified them. If any of this work is hard, it's because you have something you're attached to that you need to detach from. We can use the word trauma. We can use the word hang up. We can use the word like belief, mindset, but it is still, no matter what words we use for it, it is something that we have to heal from. And making changes, even when we know they're best, are not easy. If you want to be healthier and lose weight, you can say till you're blue in the face, I know how to do that. I need to eat healthier. I need to snack less. I need to drink water. I need to exercise. That doesn't make doing those things easy. Knowing that you have to do them, knowing what to do, and actually doing it are very, very different things. And so first of all, is just understanding that you are healing from things, and nothing is ever going to be a straight line. Healing never looks like a straight line, ever. Healing a wound does not look like a straight line. So healing trauma certainly doesn't, especially if we've been carrying it for years and years and years and years. So I would say, being aware of that first of all, but then also making small changes. A lot of times when we learn a bunch all at once, we want to get to that end result. We want to see everything in place right away. But too many changes all at once, our nervous system is not going to allow that. And if there's lots of people in the home, even if it's all good changes, your nervous system biologically wants you to keep doing the same thing. It wants you to stay the same, even if the sameness isn't ideal. So this isn't just words of wisdom and pointers, like this is biological. This is human nature. Our nervous systems want us to stay exactly the same as we are right now. We feel safest in our nervous systems now. So to change something, we have to convince our nervous systems that this change is for the better, and we want to keep that motivation of that change. And we do that not through shocking a system and changing everything all at once. We do that through subtle, significant, meaningful changes, one at a time. So the benefit of going through a workshop like this and really identifying and observing, like gathering all your data first, isn't because we want you to change everything all at once. Gathering all this data just through observation, this is exactly why I tell you, don't implement yet. Just observe. Take as much time as you need, work through that workbook, re-watch if you need to, the videos, and just gather the data. Because the more data you gather, the more time you take to do that, the more, first of all, the more you can feed your nervous system. I've got the data. You can't trick me into saying this is better. Like I can see it in front of me. I've made all the lists and all of the points. I know that this is better. This is like documented science now in my home that this is the better path. So I am going to start making these individual changes slowly and surely to make it better. But when I have all the data, then I can easily say, okay, clearly this point right here is the one that's like, this affects, the fact that we're doing this, having dinner at 7 o'clock when, whatever, this is creating the biggest like dysfunction. So that's the first thing I'm going to change. I'm going to adapt my expectation around this, or the scheduled nature of this, or lay a boundary around when we allow people to come over. Like you having all this data will help you see a priority list of the things that are creating the chaos, the dysfunction, the frustration, the overwhelm, the fear, whatever is happening. And you can make changes that way. You can either start at the top with like, wow, doing this one big thing will change lots of other things for us. Or you can start really little. Wow, if I just did this one little thing every day, that would start to like domino effect. And the other really big piece of this is that you're not the only one making these changes, and you're not the only one healing through traumas. Everyone in the home is going to be affected by these changes. So you are going to be coming up against, if there's 5 people in your home, you are up against 5 nervous systems that are fighting change, even if it's good change. So awareness is really key here. Openness, conversation, grace, peace. Don't think of this as a sprint. This isn't about just shifting everything beautifully and perfectly into one new routine. I wish that that was true. It's simply not. It's the same as anything else that you want to change in your life. You have to start committing to habits, and it has to be a little bit at a time. And the people around you have to be on board with that one way or another, whether through solidarity or force if they're younger. So it's really just going to be about trusting the process, accepting that it's going to take some time, and doing little things as you go. Someone in the chat here said, talking to my kids and husband this week and doing all these workshops really made me see that there probably isn't very much that will actually change. A lot of times, and this is a really good realization here, because a lot of times with work like this, it's just that we needed somebody to tell us it's okay that your life looks different than other people's. That's it. Many of us feel like the day is in chaos because we just haven't embraced it. We're just made to feel like it isn't okay that we don't have a rigid schedule, that we're not setting an alarm and waking up early, that we aren't getting dressed every day, that we aren't, signed up for all of these co-ops, that we're not sitting at the dining room table for hours on end, that we're not. Sometimes we just need to see that, hey, you know what? Actually, this is working for us. Why am I so stressed out about it? And then really the only issue is my emotions about it are freaking everybody else out. Sometimes it's very simple. All right. Next question. We are part of a homeschool community that has lots of meetups and outings. My kids who are 4 and 8 have their best friends in the group, and we go out 3 to 5 days a week to gather with them outside on hikes, free play, etc. We all love it, but I'm wondering if I need to slow it down and be home more. One kid needs regular social time. It feels hard to find a rhythm when we leave the house at 9:30 and return at 4. Any advice? So, I mean, this is a little contradictory. So honestly, I think you just have to kind of sit down and be really honest with yourself. If you want me to be fully raw. I see the words best friends. I see the words we love it. But I see the words regular social time. One kid needs that. So I see like this is really contradictory to me. So I feel like either you already know the answer and you just need someone else to say it to you, or you are doing what I just said. So again, timestamp this one back. You are feeling guilty that you're not home more and that your 9 to 4 looks like school hours, but you feel guilty about that. Like it's working, but for some reason it's making you feel guilty. So this is where you have got to just be honest with yourself here. If this is what works for your family, if this does feel good to be out of the house most days during the week, there's nothing wrong with that. You don't have to be at home because you are a homeschooler. That's not a thing, right? Like this whole workshop is about finding a rhythm that works for your family. So if you truly do all love it and you truly do enjoy being out and truly do need and crave that time, then that is your rhythm. Your rhythm is you're still together. Just like a rhythm isn't just once you're inside your closed doors. So maybe you need to adapt like the getting ready in the morning to go, like the transition. Maybe it's transitions that need some work. So one of these things is like a lie here. Either you're lying that everyone really does love it and you're trying to like convince yourself to quit, or you're lying that the lie is the guilt, right? Or you're feeling guilty that it's a bad thing to be out every day. And that's the lie that like is you're not telling a lie, but you're being like told a lie in your mind. So just figure out which thing is the lie. Is it the lie that you love it, or is the lie that you have to be home to have a good rhythm? And then you'll have your answer. All right. Next question. Quick recap on motivation. I have the best ways to motivate our learners as... Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. So this is what they've written down. This person has written down as motivation, and they want to clarify. These are the best ways to motivate my learners: letting them lead, giving them choice, accept a broader definition of learning, using a reward system only because my learner specifically asked for and listed this as a needs in our roots section. Is there anything else I can add? No, I think that sounds great. And I appreciate your clarification of the reward system, that the learner specifically asked for that, because otherwise I would say absolutely never use reward systems to motivate learning. But if this is something that a child has specifically asked for, it does not matter the reason. It could be that they've seen somebody else using something like that and they want to try it. Which is reasons that I have used that in the past. For the record, I've had my kids ask, can we do a prize system? Or, if I read so many books, I get a prize. Sure, I'll give you a prize for reading books because you asked. Like, yeah, read some books. We created one together and then they never asked for it again. You might have a child with a neurodiversity of some kind that desires, like needs that reward intrinsically more than anything to perform to their own best ability. So yeah, I appreciate the clarification. Letting them lead, giving them choice, accepting the broader definition of learning. And then the only other thing I would maybe say is releasing a timeline, which kind of here's what you have with letting them lead, giving them choice. The biggest thing would be trust, though. I think that's the only other thing I would add is trusting your child, not just trusting their timeline, but trusting their capability. I firmly believe that every child has the capability to learn what they need when they need it. And I would probably get a lot of pushback on that, but if you interpret it as it is meant to be interpreted, every child doesn't need the same things. So that's where we have to be very honest about what does it mean to trust a child. And that's very unique and individual. But that's the only other thing I would add to that question is trust in the child for their motivation. All right. I think we've got 2 more questions that are like content specific, and then the questions about Bridge Academy. Okay. Hello. I haven't finished day 3 yet, so forgive me if you addressed this already and I didn't hear it. I'm a second-year homeschooler, so I'm still pretty new to it. I have 4 kids, 15, 13, 11, and 7. They tend to all go their separate ways and have very different interests and areas they enjoy being in. I feel bad disrupting them and trying to bring them all together, and they usually give me pushback when I do, and that's hard emotionally. Because of this, I avoid bringing them together, but I want to so badly. Also, when it comes to learning and teaching, how do you go about introducing something? I'm not seeing the connection between letting it be natural and also teaching them. So this is definitely 2 questions. The first one is, I have kids that tend to be wanting to be alone and have different interests, and I want them all to come together, and that's hard emotionally for me. So this is another really good example of this is about you. This isn't about them. And you know that already. You've identified that. I want to bring them all together, but they don't want to be. So this is really just similar to one of the last questions. It's an awareness that at the moment, at these ages, they are very independent, like 15 and 13 especially, but also even 11. It really just is a phase of life where most kids want to be alone, and that's not a failure on your part. That's not a problem. If you see, Instagram perfect families that all do things together and have board game night every night, and all the kids are ages 4 to 17, and I can like visually see several families in my head right now that kind of promote this togetherness as like the peak family experience. I'm sure it's beautiful. I'm sure it's loved, but it's also a performance. And not every kid wants to be with their family all the time. And that's just the reality. And I just think it's really important to be raw and honest about that. Like, it is okay if your 15-year-old primarily wants to be alone at home. That's okay. It's okay if your 13-year-old wants to be alone. It's okay if your 7-year-old wants to be alone. And that might feel emotional to you because it's hard for you maybe to let go of that, like, oh, they were so little and they wanted to be with me all the time and now they don't. And that's your thing to work through. But honoring, the best thing you can do for them is honor where they are right now. That is the reality. Right now, they are preteens and teenagers and they want to do things independently. And if they are off doing things they love, you have succeeded. That's beautiful. So be proud of that, that they are off doing the things that your choice to homeschool them gives them that freedom and opportunity to go do. And then, maybe there's times when it's, your needs matter too. So there could be, conversations. Can we do something together as a family? I really miss us all being together, but don't make them feel guilty about it, right? So it's just, this is all part of this phase of life. We're honoring how this makes everybody feel, but we're also not letting our emotions dictate what everyone else in the home is doing. So definitely keep working through that content. You didn't get through day 3. So we do talk about the connection between learning in regards to your second question or second part of this question here, which is introducing a topic versus letting them naturally come up against it. So again, going way back. So whoever asked this question, I recommend you watch a lot of what I talked about today. The idea behind introducing a topic, if it's something you have identified as an essential skill, ask yourself, where is that essential skill used in my real life? And that's how I'm going to teach it. That is how we introduce things versus letting things naturally come. And often those things go hand in hand. You might be surprised to see, but my husband and I sit down often. Again, this is work that is always happening because the world is always changing. We are always changing. Everything is always changing. We're not ever doing one thing forever, and changes are good. So we often will sit down together and say, what are some things that are priorities for us? What are things that we really, what are skills our kids need? As things, 10 years ago, I wouldn't have sat down and decided that I needed to teach my kids an understanding of how AI will impact them. So I couldn't have said one thing when they were, 4 and 3 years old and then expect that to still be true later. This is why we're always doing this work. Now I can sit down with my husband and say, okay, what do we know about this? What do we need to learn about this? What are skills our kids need now that we are aware of this thing, or in this, in this new world today? What are some things that are really important skills, essential skills our kids need to know? We identify what those are, and then we ask ourselves, how are we using those skills, or how are we honing these new skills in our lives as adults in society? And then we invite our kids. That's how we introduce it. We invite them to do those things with us. It's not a, you need to know this conversation. It's a, hey, I'm an adult. I'm doing these things. Do them with me. And from there, those skills can very naturally develop, and maybe they have more interest and they want to dive in more on their own. Maybe they've only learned what you taught them, but that's enough, right? And again, if I can't think of an example in my life where I'm using those skills, needing those skills, then I have to be honest about, well, maybe that's not actually essential right now. Or if it is, if I've deemed it essential and I don't even know it, then maybe I need to learn it and figure out if it's essential before I make my kids do it, right? So there's a lot to process there, but it's perfectly okay if your kids want to be alone. There's nothing wrong with that, unless, there are caveats. Like if their desire to be alone is maybe, due to depression or something, of course we want to look into that. But overall, if they want to just work independently, then you've done your job. Like, you've done your job as a parent very successfully if you have older kids who prefer to work independently. That's the desire. That is what we want, right? You have a child that's 15 in just a few years, they're going to need to do that independently. So that's a good thing. All right. I do believe, unless we have some, things thrown in, that is the bulk of the questions around content. The rest of the questions is going to be about Bridge Academy, so we'll answer those. I do see a question here in the chat. How many things would you say you specifically decide I need to teach this? That's a good question. I think the only overarching thing in our home that we have kind of made is the you need to know this is under the umbrella of communication for us. If you can be a good communicator, you can be successful in anything in your life. So in our home, that's been the key, the one thing that we proactively teach. And lots falls under that, right? A lot falls under communication. So the ability to read critically, the ability to express ourselves in various ways, whether that's through the written word, through, orating, through conversation, emotional awareness, understanding someone else's emotions and my emotions and how to have conversations that way, how to ask for help, how to ask good questions, fact checking, media literacy, digital literacy, safety on the internet. You could put a lot under that umbrella to kind of give you the flexibility of saying this is a good time to have this conversation. This is a good place to teach this current events, awareness of history and social issues. All of that falls under communication, but that is the broad umbrella in our home of the things you need to know fall under that, because ultimately, if you can be a good communicator, you can be successful in life, because you can either lead or you can successfully ask for help. And that's what really, really we've decided is the most important thing. And then again, lots falls under that. Okay, so we're going to throw in some Bridge specific questions here. Is there still hope that Pennsylvania will allow Bridge to operate as a private school in the future? So that's really specific. So yes, yes, there is. So we spent an exorbitant amount of time this year. This is very state specific. I don't usually like answering state specific questions, but I know I have a lot of families in Pennsylvania. So we spent a lot of time communicating with the Department of Education in Pennsylvania this year. And there was conversations that there was one way that we could possibly make this work, but no other virtual school in Pennsylvania had gotten this designation. I don't want to give away too much information because it's all, legal and whatever, but we were hoping and getting some good feedback that this could be possible without being a brick and mortar school. And kind of at the last minute, just were told no. So that was very frustrating because we thought we had this track. We had lots of really great conversations with, people pretty high up in the Department of Education who just, to be honest, I think at the end of the day, because no one else had done it, they just didn't want to even try to make the distinction. But that is, when the world is changing, we have to accept that government changes last. So yes, once we have, full accreditation, at that point, it does not matter if we are virtual or brick and mortar, we can. That process was halted a little bit last year for a few reasons. First of all, financially, it is extremely expensive to get certification. That's the primary thing, is a school has enough, many thousands of dollars ongoing. And number one, we would have had to raise tuition rates for that to make it possible to get that initial accreditation step done. And I just, especially right now at this time, that just didn't seem prudent. It was important to me to keep tuition costs, accessible for everyone. And then the other thing is that at the same time, like, it's all just been bureaucratic roadblocks. The person that was assigned to managing our accreditation had a family death or emergency and also got extremely ill, and they won't just reassign you because that person still works for the accreditation board. So we just kind of had to wait. And while we were in this like many months long waiting period because this person was ill, which I don't fault them for, of course, things happen, the accreditation board 100% changed the regulations around virtual schools. So had we not had the roadblock of that accreditation manager being ill or having to take time off work, we probably would have had the time to push it through, even if we had raised rates. And then everything changed. And because we weren't yet past whatever threshold, all of our steps had to change. And it just got to this point where it was like, okay, the more important thing right now is making Bridge very sustainable, making sure we can, bring on everything that we really want to make this, a better place for everybody, versus fighting for this piece of paper, this stamp that doesn't really change a lot of things. So it's absolutely still possible. In the meantime, for our Pennsylvania families who do still have to register as homeschoolers, it's still very easy. It's almost like a dual enrollment. Like, we do the paperwork for you. The evaluations are done at the end of the year for you. You don't have to do anything extra for that. It's already handled. You still get a high school diploma from a private school. Everything is still the same. So ultimately, we just kind of decided it wasn't worth the tuition raise right now to make that happen faster. So the short answer is yes, there's still hope. The long answer is it's just taking a little longer than we anticipated. Okay. Next question about Bridge is, when can we start the learning log? So actually, today would be the first day. So I do still have to go in. That is on my list next, is to flip that little switch inside the portal to turn off the 24-25 logs and turn on the 25-26 logs. And I'm really excited to show you the way that we've decided to do this year. It's an experiment that might be fun, but we're going to play with it. We'll see how it goes for the first month or two. But yeah, we're doing learning logs a little differently this year, and I'm excited about it. Okay, oh, this is a good question. Okay, so this is a school calendar question. So this person points out, for the upcoming school year calendar, transcripts are issued June 2nd, but quarter 4 isn't over until 6:30, and the last day of school is 7:31. So our calendar operates as an admin calendar primarily, meaning you as Bridge families have 100% flexibility and control over your schedule. The reason that we operate on an August 1st to July 31st calendar, which is a 365-day school year, technically, the reason we operate that way is that no matter where you live or what your local regulations are, your minimums are covered through the enrollment. If we only operated September 1 to May 30th, for example, and you lived in a district where the school year started August 2nd and ended here, you wouldn't be legally covered by our calendar. If you lived in the Southern Hemisphere and your school year started in January and ended in December, you wouldn't be covered by our calendar if we minimized it, right? If you lived somewhere where you needed 900 hours and someone else needs 990 hours. So do you see where I'm going? So we created a complete 12-month school year calendar so that administratively, no matter where you live, you are covered through the documentation of a 12-month school year. So it's not always going to perfectly align. Now, the reason, so the last day of school is officially 7/31, but almost all of our students live somewhere where June is marked as the end of the school year. And because we have to also align with local standards in terms of college, senior graduates needing college transcript transfers, evaluations needing to go out, transfers needing done to different programs, scholarships needing transcripts and evaluations. We have all of that to align with as well. So transcripts go out early June to allow for that flexibility of families wherever they live, the end of the school year, that in that regard is covered if they're in the Northern Hemisphere. The Q4 is primarily based on specific states like New York, for example, that still have to send in reports quarterly. So it's like there was so much to fit onto that one little calendar. So I know at first glance it is confusing, but bottom line is that calendar is primarily administrative. Wherever you live, we have those individual things already designed so that you can legally align with your local district. Paperwork will go where it needs to, documentation will go where it needs to from where you live, and then you have full flexibility to learn on whatever timeline you desire. Okay. I am going to answer this quick question from the chat. Can you post videos in the learning logs? Yes, you will be able to do that. I didn't submit this question, but do we accept the Hope Scholarship? Yes, we do. We do accept. Oh yeah, the rest of your question is kind of relevant. Yes, we do accept. We're already approved for Hope Scholarship, so you can pay directly through their portal for Bridge Academy tuition. We are approved for the Hope Scholarship in West Virginia. Okay, I am homeschooling. Next question. I'm homeschooling, unschooling this year as I have a kiddo in autistic and PDA burnout. Can you share how Bridge may be a good fit for kids and families dealing with a nervous system need for autonomy and how I can personally reframe and see all the ways life is actually learning? We attempted Sudbury last year for a bit and hope to make it back at some point, but it's not possible for my kiddo right now. So what I can tell you is that one of the largest groups, like minority groups of students joining Bridge Academy are students in PDA burnout. So we have quite a large subpopulation of families with PDA inside of Bridge Academy, specifically because it does work so well to embrace this type of student-led, flexible, force-proof learning. That like nothing speaks better to a PDA person, right? A person with PDA than you do you, boo. Like we're gonna trust that it's happening. You get to go off and do your thing, do the things that you love. Because one thing we do know about people with PDA is that when they are not in burnout, they are usually like very intelligent and focused and attentive and obsessive and have great ideas and really unique ways of showing it. But it's only when we force this outside pressure and take away autonomy that they obviously, respond and, reject that and reach the burnout where nothing is then happening. So here's a couple ways that this works with Bridge and how this helps. So number one is we understand this situation. We understand school burnout. However you get there. Some kids get there fully neurotypical kids can get school burnout for various reasons, can create anxiety issues, can just like school shut down. School is traumatic. School is a traumatic thing, okay, for many, many people. It is traumatic to the nervous system. It is traumatic to creativity. It is traumatic to curiosity. And if we throw in any little unique things about a person, it adds to that. So we are fully aware and understanding of the burnout experience. We have had students with PDA start with Bridge Academy and literally need a full calendar school year just to heal out from that burnout. And the only thing that is written in that child's learning logs is healing. All of the content is ways that the child was healing, recalibrating their sleep schedule, eating when they're actually hungry, freedom to talk to people about things, like whatever that healing needs to be. And that is enough. And that is okay, because as an educator, as a mother, as a leader, I would so much rather a child take a full year to heal their nervous system, to feel safe again, to be curious again, to step back into their bodies and their minds, and then be able to engage and be curious and take off from there, knowing that they were trusted, they were allowed that time, and they are healed from that. And they know they've learned those regulation skills to be able to, do that again in the future, because it's likely that burnout will continue to happen to them in some way in the future. I would so much rather that year be given for that, so that they can then engage in the way that they were meant to, than to try to force anything and perpetuate the burnout, thereby losing potentially an entire childhood. Okay. That is my personal belief about PDA burnout, autistic burnout, school burnout, whatever it looks like, trauma healing in general. Take the time that is needed. There's not going to be pressure from us. We're going to give you the tools for there to not be pressure from you, like this workshop, like the support in the community, like the pure belief that you don't have to prove anything to us, while we are trusting that you are trusting your child's healing journey. And I will tell you that over the last 4 years, and I'm sure that there are families that either in the chat now or will share at some point their stories about a child that came to this program in full burnout, that took the time to heal from that and now just do fantastic, amazing things. While I fully agree and love the healing process, how do they pass to the next year? I understand this is probably an I need to unschool thing. Yes, it is, because when we look at, again, when we talk about what assessment looks like, we at Bridge Academy are not only assessing academic check marks. We are looking at the development of a child. So a child that, let's say a 4th grader that comes to our program from a public school, and more than anything that year, they spend that year healing in every other way, developing physically, developing emotional strength and maturity, maturing in these other ways. That is growth that we will acknowledge, and we will credit that growth. Does it look like the same checkpoints that their public school might have? No. But the reality is also that in public school, they would still just pass them. I cannot tell you how many teens come to me that, if we really were honestly passing based on ability, they should not be where they are. They can't write. They can't fluently read. Their comprehension is atrocious. I told the story in one of our calls about a kid that I worked with that had taken 3 years of honors French and couldn't speak French at all, basic, and just get passed and passed and passed. So this is really like, we are understanding assessment from a holistic perspective here, not just can you meet these academic check marks. There are spaces in these learning logs to share that information. And we also see the value of real life subject application. So, for example, you might not be taking a health class, but a child that is learning how to regulate their nervous system, that is learning how to track their sleep, making sure they're getting enough sleep through this healing. That is science. That is health. In many cases, that's math too, doing that calculations of how much sleep you're getting. So we're still like, we're seeing the real life applications here of those subjects, and that's what we're giving credit for. Okay. Next question. I was wondering if there are certain things that elementary kids should learn throughout their journey in school. Do they need to learn certain events or times in history? Should they learn all the different sciences? Do they need to reach a certain math level? How do you go about figuring out what to teach them and when? So yeah, this isn't really a bridge question. This one's more of a content. And I think I've pretty much answered that one. So if we could timestamp this back to talking about the essential skills, then that's what I would focus on for that one, because we're already at an hour and a half. Okay, next question. We are Americans living in Spain. Although I don't need transcripts, I like the idea of my boys getting their high school diploma later. Do I need to be officially residing in the US to qualify, or could I give the address of my parents in Michigan? Thanks. You can give the address of where you live in Spain, because we are international and we have students all over the place, including a lot of expats that live, that are our American citizens living somewhere else. So put the address of where you live, and that would just cover your, whatever documentation you need, both in the States and abroad. Yeah, you can just put your international address. That's fine. You don't have to reside in the US to qualify. Not at all. We have quite a lot of families in Spain, actually. It's one of our largest growing countries at the moment. Next question. I would like more clarification on being part of Bridge and using other curriculum. If I don't use everything through Bridge, how do I show I've taught that subject and get credits? Also, I'm in Missouri, and our rules for homeschoolers is different than those in online academies. Any ideas how to navigate that? Full enrollment in online academy doesn't count as homeschooling here. Okay, a couple different questions here. So first question is using other curriculum with Bridge Academy. So yes, the curriculum that we provide to you is a resource, not a requirement. That's what we say. It gives you a scope and sequence to follow if you need the structure. Everything that would be taught in a public school, the context of it, is represented inside the curriculum. So it's there for you if you desire to use it. If you have other things that you decide have worked just as well or are, working for your children, whether that is another curriculum resource, online classes somewhere, in-person stuff, or just full unschooling, that is totally fine. You have complete flexibility to do that. That's what we want you to do what works best for your family. The learning logs that we have is how you share that information. It's broken down forms where you share that information. If you're using a different curriculum, you tell us what that is. If there's certain subjects and concepts that you've taught, you put that in there. If they're taking an online class somewhere and get an actual transcript for it, you can upload that into the learning log, and we'll apply that that same amount of credit and grade. So it's very simple. We have the learning logs. That's where you share your information, and we use all of that to process the credits and the transcripts. In terms of Missouri specifically, so in Missouri, we operate as a private school. So if your child is enrolled with us and you live in Missouri, you are officially actually not a homeschooler at all. You would be considered a student in a private school. So you do not have to register as a homeschooler or worry about any of those regulations anyway, because they would officially be considered students of a private school. So that's how that is navigated. All right, next question. This one might be very specific. I submitted my withdrawal forms through Bridge on Tuesday and waiting for things to go through. We're coming from an umbrella school where we put in our learning plan subjects and grades twice a year. I'm freaking out a little bit, wondering how the learning logs are going to look because I'm still in a subject grade mindset. I still do plan to do core subjects, but I guess I'm wondering if I should keep the umbrella school for reporting to help. No, you definitely don't need to keep the umbrella school, and the learning logs will still be broken down that way. You can, if that's the way you still, the learning logs are structured in a way to honor every family's unique path on this deschooling, unschooling, homeschooling journey. So when you come in here, it's not just going to be, total free for all. There is some gentle structure that everyone can align to. So the learning logs still have spaces for you to put in subjects, grades, activities, learning plans. You can share all of those things as much as you desire, as frequently as you desire. There are minimums that we require just for our legal reporting purposes. So you do have to submit 4 a year for elementary kids, 6 a year for middle school, and 8 a year for high school. But there's a couple different types of forms this year. Some of them are going to be like super quick. You just want to upload something like really fast. Some of them are student-led forms. Some of them are parent-led forms. And it doesn't matter which is which. You could do, if you have a high schooler, it could be 8 student forms, and that is enough. It could be 4 student, 4 parent. It could be 2 quick ones and 6 other ones. It's just a combo of 4, 6, or 8 based on the grade level. And that is for you. It's dual purpose. So the learning logs work as a digital portfolio for you. So it's saved there for you to refer back to if you desire throughout the year. And then it also gives us the information so we can, check the boxes and create those transcripts for you. So you definitely do not need an umbrella school in addition to reporting with Bridge. If we are, I lost my space. Hold on. Next question. If we are a part of Bridge Academy already for the school year of 25-26, when can I fill out student teacher IDs? How fast do they arrive? We're going on vacation soon. So you should already have a link. If you've already enrolled for 25-26, you should already have a link to fill out the ID card forms. We are backlogged on that because normally, we do them throughout the year as they come in, but with like 700 orders came in all at once. Literally in one day, we had like 650 orders come in, and we have to do them manually to add like the photos and everything. So we are backlogged. Normally it takes like 10 days max, but there is definitely a backlog. So if you're waiting on an ID, it is coming, I promise. We're working on those. They're just a little backlogged. If you definitely need it like right now, please send an email to the team or a note in the help desk, and we'll prioritize making sure you get that out for something. Next question. What changes are coming this year? That's a good question. So we are making changes to the learning log. We're updating and adding some curriculum. So my time got away from me a little bit this summer. There's a lot more I wanted to do before the school year started officially today, but we're going to keep going. So you will see things being added and revamped in the parent portal. It'll probably, be happening over the next 30 days or so, where we're updating curriculum resources. We're adding more for middle schoolers and high schoolers. What else is new? The learning logs are changing. We're doing the weekly Q&As like this instead of just a monthly call. I think that's it off the top of my head. I have some experts I'm hoping to bring in so that you're not just listening to me all of the time. So some of the weekly calls might be very specific to, a guest expert, for example. But yeah, that's primarily off the top, just making things work a little bit better. All right, next question. My question is, let me check over here real quick. I accidentally signed up for a 24-25 ID. I'm looking on the site. I can't find where to sign up for a 25-26 one. Okay, send us an email. We'll direct you to the link. It should be on the main home portal page, but it might be, as we're doing some updates, it might be disappearing at the moment. So you should have gotten an email with the link too, but you can email us. How would we log interdisciplinary learning like math and science? So, okay. The question is like, if we're just doing a thing like bird watching, how do I log that as math and science? So that's our job. If you want to break it down, if you're using a curriculum for math and you want to put that in the math box in the form, great. That works for you. If you are just already kind of unschooling, holistically learning, doing your own things, then there'll be a space for you to just share the things you're doing, and we will transform it into where it needs to count. So you don't have to do that extra work. That's literally what we do. So you'll see in the learning logs that you have the ability to do it either way. Okay, let's get through these questions. I have like Ooh, like 10 more. All right. My question is about math. I'm struggling to deschool myself specifically with this subject. I intelligently know that math is all around us, and I see my child using math skills in daily lives, like mental math, but I still worry she's behind, especially when it comes to basic things like adding and subtracting on paper with pencil or learning how to count money. I know we have calculators and everything is digital, but how do I let go of the fear that she is behind? She's 10 years old now, but what about high school? How will she learn more advanced math without practicing basics? What if she needs to transfer to a charter or needs to go to public school because of unseen circumstances? Okay, I'm not even going to keep reading this actually. There's nothing wrong here, but this is like a journal entry of fear is what this is. So the person that asked this is a journal entry of total fear. And I see this a lot. Okay, I'm just going to put this fear to bed. What if I die in a car accident and my child has to go to public school? Then the public school will force her to catch up. Okay, that's not a thing that you need to be like changing your whole life around because of one traumatic event that might happen to like having to go back to school and learn math because something traumatic happened that she no longer can homeschool. The math will be the least of the concerns. Okay, if something unforeseen happens and that she has to transfer back to school, that the school will force her to catch up. Don't worry, they'll do remedial math. They'll force the drill and kill. They'll do the same thing that they're always doing, or they'll probably just pass her through anyway. All right. So that like, let that one go. You cannot control these like fearful, unforeseen circumstances that happen. And you certainly don't have to, that is the same mindset of like, I don't know, like, I can't even think of something. Don't let that one go. All right. All of this is fear. I'm scared she's behind. She knows how to do some things, but I'm scared. You are wrapped in this spiral of fear and comparison. And you need to like put the kibosh on this and go to that assessment workshop page in the workshop of like, what do I actually see happening right now? And you just need to go to that every time you're having these fears. That's where you need to go. You need to go to that page and you need to say, all right, I'm going to stop this train before it derails. I'm going to spend 24 to 48 hours and I'm just going to watch my child because my traumas and my educational wounds are not serving my child right now. And it's going to rub off on them. So if I keep having these spirals, I'm doing myself no favors and I'm doing my child no favors because they are going to see that either extrinsically because my reaction to these fears is going to be, oh, no, we have to sit down and you have to learn these things in case something bad happens. Or intrinsically, you're not going to be as motivated and excited about the things that she is doing because you are like deeply worried about these other things. You can have these conversations with her, not from a fear perspective, but I think it's important that we make sure you know how to count money, or you don't even have to say that. I would like, come to the store with me. This is how we pay for things. Sit next to me while I log into the bank account and have conversations about money. I'm not going to go into this because we're an hour and 45 minutes in, but a whole other trauma wound we could dive into is finances. I don't know, many of us grew up in a realm where we did not talk, especially women. We did not talk about money. We weren't supposed to ask that question. You don't ask other people how much money they have, how much money they made. You don't talk about your bank account. We're just told to never talk about these things. And then we have no concepts of them when we're adults. And it's certainly not taught in school how to like manage money, invest money, like if those are the things that you need your daughter to know, then you need to invite her in. You need to be honest and have conversations and show her these things. And that's like a big wound a lot of us still need to heal, I think, which is why financial literacy is such an important thing, I think, to teach kids. Like that falls under. That's also, I am redacting my former statement that communication is the only thing we talk about. We talk about money and finances as well, because that is something everybody needs to know about. The more awareness we have, the better we can help ourselves and other people. So that's the answer to that question. That's a fear journal entry. Take it for what it is. Go to that last page, assess what's actually happening, and do your own healing work around this. Okay. Next question. Can we sign up one child for Bridge Academy initially to see how we like it and then add others within a month or so? Sure. That's fine. You can do that. No problem. The only thing I would say there is just make sure where you live that doing that you just make sure that you're meeting compulsory attendance laws. Because when you're enrolled with Bridge Academy, we make sure that your paperwork is documented so that you are covered legally wherever you live. So if you enroll one child, only that one child will have the legal documentation. So if you are living somewhere where you have to register as a homeschooler and you are waiting to do that because you want to try Bridge, like legally you could be in a truancy situation. So you absolutely can do that. You can enroll with us anytime, but you just want to make sure that you're, covered legally. Next question. How do I change my son's grade I enrolled him into? I selected grade 11, but he actually wants to graduate this year and I've already submitted all the paper. I need to submit paperwork. Just message us through the help desk or email. That's the best way to do that and we'll help you out with that. Next question. What's the best way to use the Your Natural Learner curriculum? This is our first year using and I'm a little lost. So the best way to do that, I would say if you're totally new to it, then I would choose the curriculum level that aligns with what your child is enrolled in. So if you have an enrolled second grader, open the second grade curriculum, read the introduction fully. That will help you. You need to approach this from an understanding that this is not going to look like a traditional curriculum. It is not a check the box. But the introductions should do a pretty good job of outlining that for you. So start with the grade level they're in, read that intro, pick a theme together, look at all of them with your child, let them pick one and work through that. Each theme is roughly 4 to 6 weeks, depending on, the speed, the interest, the motivation, the interest, whatever. There's no set, you might have a fully wants to absorb all of this information and do all the activities child and you plow through it in 3 weeks. It might take you longer. You might go down rabbit holes. That's the ideal, is that it kind of sends you down rabbit holes of other interests, so that it could take you longer, but it's going to be unique for everyone. So pick one level, read the intro, pick one theme, explore it together. See this as a collaborative learning journey where you're doing this with your child, not I'm the teacher, they're the student. You're learning together. That's a really helpful way to think about it. Next question. We are so excited to start with Bridge. I'm wondering if there are any plans to eventually create a parent support group outside of Facebook. Our family's never used Facebook for personal reasons, and as much as I would love to participate, I'm not sure I'm comfortable signing up on the platform. Will we be at a disadvantage if we don't utilize this resource? I'm conflicted on this. So this is something, it is on the radar, but I haven't found a platform that operates the same way, that gets the same engagement, that is secure enough, that enough people are going to want to sign up for it. For now, it's just the best resource. The program that we are using for the portal does not currently have an in-house community piece. I'm petitioning to the company to add that. If we do something outside of Facebook, it will be inside the portal. That is the only way I want to do that, because the last thing I want to do is force parents to add one more thing to their plate. If we have to also pop over to another, if we have, Facebook is one thing because most of us are already there. If we have to add another platform for communication, it just simply won't get used, and it's one more thing to have to manage. So the only way that would happen is if the current program we're using adds an in-house community network, which is probably likely. And the developers of it are pretty open to listening to new ideas. So we'll keep asking for that. So if it happened, and that would be the most ideal, right? Because we're already on the platform there anyway. So that would be ideal. Otherwise, for now, Facebook is just the easiest way to do that. I fully understand and respect the personal reasons to not have a social media account there. So if it's, you're not missing anything important, yes, you don't have the community aspect as much there. So that, is just the one thing you would give up on. But if, worst case, if you really, really want it, it would be signing up on, a burner account of some sort that doesn't actually have any connection to your family. It's all, private information, but that's kind of where we are on that. Next question. We are thinking about selling our home and traveling for a bit within the U.S. Will we need to do anything different? Currently, we're registered under Bridge Academy in Tennessee. No, we have lots of travel schoolers and world schoolers. So whatever address you just would consider your home, because even full-time travelers have some type of address somewhere, even if it's a PO box, in a random state. So you would just you'd register with whatever address you would use to receive mail. A lot of people when they're traveling, put like a family member's address. You would just put that as your resident address, and nothing changes. So if it ends up that you move to a different state with that, because of that, like your mother-in-law lives in Michigan and that's the address you're going to use, and you put that address, we'll just move your registration to Michigan, and that's it. But nothing changes for you. You don't have to do anything different. Next question. Are there computer requirements for record-keeping purposes like documenting, or is a phone sufficient? The portal works just as well on the phone. Everything is accessible. It might be tiny. You might have to zoom in, but you don't have to have a computer. You can do it all on a mobile device. All right, last few questions here. Next one. Can you review how we keep track of or observe learning in order to work with Bridge to create records and transcripts? I'm unclear on that. So I think I've answered that. So for this one, if we could cut back to whatever question asks about the learning logs. The learning logs will be self-explanatory. It's broken down to where if you want to document specific curriculum subject ideas, you can do that. If you want to document in a more holistic type of way, you can do that, and we will translate that for you. Next question. I have an irrational fear about advanced math. Have you guys noticed a pattern, by the way? Math really traumatized a lot of us, didn't it? I have an irrational fear about advanced math. If parents have concerns about teaching advanced subjects, do you have any advice? The fear is probably unfounded. I have a 5th grader right now. I'm not sure how advanced math needs to get for a high school transcript. So for high school level with Bridge, we have a 4 math credit requirement. You have to have 4 math credits to graduate. However, there is an outline in our handbook of all of the various things that count towards those credits. And the way that we do that is we have a 3-track mindset for every subject area, because obviously some of us are going to choose naturally. We're not going to be advanced in every subject. We're going to choose those that interest us and we are naturally adept at the most. So we have a track that is for every subject level. There's the track of super advanced, love it, interested, need it, going to college for it, academic focus in this. So if you have a child that is naturally or needed to be for their ambitions academically motivated, then there's going to be a list of specific course options to meet that credit. So in math, that's going to look more traditional, right? Algebra, calculus, geometry, trigonometry, data management, whatever. And then you can just find those online. You can find a curriculum, you can find a tutor, but then that work of choosing it is done for you. Then we have a track that's more like the middle of the road, pretty good at the subject, but don't need high level advanced stuff. And then a list of suggestions per subject. So again, in math, that's going to look maybe more like pre-algebra, consumer math, financial literacy, investment, entrepreneurship, business math, that kind of track. And then we have the more creative, unschooling, don't need as much of an advanced study in this subject. So in math, that's going to look like budgeting, still some financial literacy. It might be there's a lot. I can't think off the top of my head. That it's all in the handbook, though. It's broken down into all these different ways that those credits can be met. So it's definitely not something you have to have a fear of. Trust your kid. Keep going. If they're in 5th grade, you have lots of time to figure out what that path is going to look like. Next question. 4 more. When using ESA funds to pay for tuition, ESA says a portion must be spent on language arts, math, science, social studies, and whatnot. Does the curriculum at Bridge cover all of that? Yes. So if I'm not sure what state you're in, but if you are using state ESA funds to pay for curriculum with Bridge, you are meeting the requirements of all subject areas. And we state that every ESA program that we sign up for and get approved for it asks us to specify what subjects are being covered, and all of them are selected and approved by the ESA programs. So every ESA program that we are already approved to get, which if you go to our website and you click state info and you find the state where you live, if every state has a section about ESA, it'll even tell you like there isn't one in this state, or we're already approved for this one, whatever it is. Anytime we are already approved for an ESA, we make sure that we are approved for every subject area, so that way when you use it to pay for our program, all of your requirements are met. Next question. What are best practices when making the learning logs? The how or what kind of information we should share and how is it used? So again, I've kind of answered this one, so we can timestamp this back. It'll make sense when you see it. Again, I'm turning that on later this afternoon, maybe tomorrow, depending on how long this goes. Oh, good question. Could an adult that never finished school get a high school diploma through Bridge Academy? Yes, and we have done this in the past as well. So reach out to us individually about that. We absolutely can do that for you. And last submitted question regarding documenting learning. I've seen the forms in the portal. I assume that is something we're prompted to do. Is it something we can do more often than once a month if we want? Yes. So the frequency of the learning logs, once again, we have the minimum requirements of 4 per year for elementary students, 6 for middle school, 8 for high school. But it is always open. You can submit as many as you would like to submit. Most families, I would say on average, just make it a habit of submitting 1 per month. That way they're not trying to remember things for a really long time, or like go back and like, oh, what were we doing last month? We have families that submit 1 a week because they just, like having the documentation and the portfolio for themselves, bi-weekly, quarterly, whatever. It's totally up to you, but you can submit as often as you want. They're always there. And again, this year, it's a little bit different to kind of make it easier based on what you want to share. So there's going to be just like a quickie learning log where you can just type something in real fast, like just wanted to share this win, and you can upload something. If the only thing you want to do is, upload a transcript or a photo or a video, you can do that. And it's just boom, put right in there without having to fill anything else out. And then we have student documented ones and parent documented ones. So, and those ask some different questions based on who's filling it out. So that'll be, I'm looking forward to seeing how that works, but yeah, that's how that works. Always available. Okay. I think we hit every question. Usually these calls will not be 2 hours long, but we had to do the double duty today of the workshop cues and the bridge cues. So to wrap this one up, this is the end of our live week together for the Aligned Homeschool Routines Workshop. Thank you very much for being with me, for engaging, for sharing ideas, for listening, for learning, and for changing the world one family at a time by embracing some of these beliefs about what learning looks like and how we can create a world of natural learners, children who love to learn forever and ever. That's the goal, right? Just a reminder for you, the replays will be available of this as well. So the 3 days of the workshop plus the Q&A today, all will stay available for free on YouTube until midnight on Sunday. And then those will be taken down. As well as the pop-up Facebook group that we had. So you can absolutely still share over there, ask questions, get engaged, connect with others. If you need to for anything outside of the group, that group will get archived Sunday as well. And then all of this type of engagement and learning and community and joy will continue for those of us inside Bridge Academy. Again, if you missed any of the videos and you don't have time this weekend to catch up on the replays, we're going to be taking them down. We're going to edit and put them all together as a package, make it look all nice and pretty. And then we will upload it first for our families inside Bridge Academy. That'll be available inside the portal for you for free. And after that, then we will make it available to sell for a low cost. It's not, I don't try to gatekeep information, just pay for my time. So we'll put that out there as well. And I think that is it. So thank you for joining me. If I don't see you inside Bridge Academy, it's been great spending this week with you. I'm sure I'll be back to do something like this again in the future. If you are joining us for the Bridge Academy school year this year, then I will see you in that group. And I will see you next Friday at noon to answer all of your questions next week. Have a good day, guys. Thanks. Bye.